Happy Frigg's Day. Today I want to talk about ritual practice. So I think it's understandable that when you start practicing, perhaps one of the hardest steps to take is whether to use written sources, written rituals to practice, or whether you forge your own path and conceive of your own words and style of practice. And what I want to talk through is what are my underlying philosophies and how I like to practice, and some of those reasons why. I think it's worth observing that personal ritual can feel more powerful than large group ritual. Though perhaps that's just my perception and my feelings. And the fact is, if you partake in larger rituals, then perhaps you favour them over small personal ones. It's very much what you put into it is what you're going to get from it. And that draws us back, really, to the underlying theme of reciprocity, hospitality. And I don't think, really, that when you are performing ritual or doing ritual, practicing ritual, that those underlying sort of foundations do not change. When you create a sacred space, you are engaging with local power, and it's important to accept personal responsibility for what you are doing, what you're attempting to do. While you may invoke other powers, really the be all and end all is what you are doing, you are responsible for. And I try to maintain doing that, in that while you may invite things, really that sacred space, that location that you are practicing at, while you are there, you are responsible for what happens, whether it's good or bad. Whether it's good or bad is going to probably come down to what you're trying to do. And again, that's a matter of practice, experience, and expectation to some extent. What is it you are hoping to achieve by the ritual that you are doing? And only you can determine that. And obviously, the larger a ritual gets, the more complications a ritual can get. This is one of those things that sort of brings us back to heathenry, tends to its greatest strength can be its greatest weakness, in that individual pockets of heathens practicing is more the way it operates, and that gives you a lot of freedom. Obviously, if you wish to compare to or rival, say, Christianity, then Christianity has that strong sort of mass presence to it, which is why sort of the course of history has gone the way it has gone. And that's not to criticize Christianity or criticize any sort of form of paganism. There have been mistakes in the past, and you can put that down to whichever factor you want to put it down to. Anyway, having your goal in mind is probably the most important thing to have. However, when it comes to doing the practice, making your words count, obviously hospitality, reciprocity really need, or I feel for me, are the underlying principles. So you're entering a sacred space, and it's important to acknowledge the land rights and again accept responsibility for being in their space and treating it the right way, and not sort of, leaving a mess behind when you're done, or being disrespectful to that location. No sort of engraving runes on trees, cutting into the bark. That's not good. Really, once you are done in that space, you should leave and it look like you've not been there. So acknowledge and be grateful and invite into the land rights. Obviously, if they don't engage with you, then just back away. No harm done. It's a dynamic, and we give respect to nature and so forth. So hospitality, invite only. And the same goes for ancestors, really. It's, you want to make contact with your ancestors, possibly, or they're watching over you. And again, underlying, invite them. Don't dictate to them. Don't force them to manifest or draw them towards you in a unpleasant manner, because, reciprocity. If you do something that is unpleasant, unpleasantness will be visited upon you. So I really feel and want to emphasize invite. There are common words that are used invoking ancestors. Again, I've no criticism over them. Really speak from the heart. Sometimes, depending on the type of ritual, you perhaps don't even need to speak at all. However, words are important as much as intent. So if you can get the two together, then it's going to be sort of better for you. And obviously, finally, you come around to inviting the gods. And again, it's invitation. I dislike, pronunciations that the gods are here, that I've forced the gods to manifest in this sacred space. That's not hospitality. It's invite them, and if they make their presence known, wonderful. But it's invitation, and if the invitation is taken or not, it is audacious and arrogant to presume you can force the gods to manifest in your ritual because you demand it. That's not hospitality. Finally, what I like to do in constructing my rituals is to observe, obviously, that Hugin and Munin fly across the realms and report all to Odin. So things that Odin might not see or might not know of, his ravens report to him. All things are reported to him. I feel that that's important to be acknowledged, and for everyone in your vicinity to acknowledge. And finally, to coin a phrase, really, and this is a progression for me, is that we are our deeds, and our deeds are known. Now, fair point. It's just that sort of, I don't know, people you might be friends with on social media, they're not necessarily going to know what your deeds are as you're doing these things. You might talk about it. That's the intention behind saying that is obviously Hugin and Munin report all to the Allfather. So even if people are concealing things from you or things you're not aware of, all things are known to the Allfather. And really, it's important to remember that at all times, because how you conduct yourself, it can't be hidden. Someone will know, and those people are going to be the more important people that judge you for your deeds. Yes, you can deceive people, certainly amongst humanity you can deceive people, and you may or may not get found out. But there are higher powers that you cannot cheat. And really, that final sort of declaration for ritual is to be putting yourself there and acknowledging that, and letting everyone else acknowledge that for themselves, so that anyone who comes together hopefully are there for the best of intentions, and that you're sharing responsibility in what you are doing and how you're doing it and what you're going to do moving forward. Obviously, once you've finished, you wind down and reverse things, give thanks, to acknowledge that the door was open, and gratitude for those who have been present, and wishes or desires that, through practice, others may take up the offer of hospitality. And as I said earlier, when you leave or close down your ritual, leave the area as you found it, so that harmony is maintained. These are important principles to me in how I practice, and a lot of those things you'll find with a lot of groups, I hope. yeah, so that's some of my thoughts on how I practice, or how I would, suggest some people move forward or not. I mean, it's easy to give advice sometimes. Oftentimes, it's easy to give advice rather than to follow it. And how you choose to practice is for you to decide. And if some waffle like this can help, all the better, for good or for bad. Thank you for listening. Do take care. Goodbye.